Okay, let's dive right into this, because this quote, it completely shatters how most of us think about our careers. All the success you have ever had in life is luck. I know, it sounds a bit cynical at first, right? You're probably sitting there thinking about all the hard work, the studying, the late nights you've put in. But what if we just acknowledge that the opportunities placed in front of us, the languages we were taught, the places we were born, involve a massive amount of pure chance? Well, here is the really powerful twist. While success might be luck, luck itself is actually something you can engineer. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're breaking down a fascinating masterclass from Varun Mayya on why distribution is actually 10 times more valuable than the product you're selling or the hard skills you possess. If you're a focused learner looking to systematically increase the surface area of your opportunities, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to look at the exact math behind building trust and why creating a massive audience is basically the ultimate cheat code for the future. Okay, let's jump straight into our first major paradigm shift. Section 1, Lightning Catcher, Catching Opportunity. I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you are a video game character. You've got your various stats, right? Strength, intelligence, and a luck stat. Let's say yesterday your luck stat was a 5, but today you publish a piece of content that brings you 1,000 new followers. Boom, your luck stat just leveled up to a 7. By simply having more people know who you are and what you do, you are actively driving luck your way. You aren't just sitting around waiting to be discovered anymore. You are increasing the mathematical probability that an amazing opportunity is going to stumble right across your path. And this brings us to a brilliant visual metaphor. Think about the Empire State Building. Have you ever wondered why it has that massive spire at the very top? It's a lightning catcher. It is built specifically so that when lightning strikes, it hits that spire instead of something else. Creating content is exactly like erecting a lightning catcher for your own life. When you put yourself out there, you catch massive, completely unexpected opportunities. We're talking about random, world-class deal flow here, like, say, the US Embassy reaching out, or huge global finance companies asking for partnerships. The benefits are totally random, but you absolutely have to build the catcher first. Now, we have to make a really crucial distinction here, because content and distribution, they are not the same thing. Content is just the material. It's a video or an article that gives people some utility, like teaching a skill or just entertainment. Most people will consume it and just, move on. But distribution is what happens when someone has consumed enough of that utility or entertainment that they wake up one day and consciously decide to follow you. Distribution is audience trust. It's essentially an extended group of friends who now make minor or sometimes even major life decisions partially based on what you say and how you behave. So, how do we actually build that trust? Let's look at the hard data in Section 2, the math of trust, building distribution. 0. That is exactly how much immediate return on investment you should expect when you start putting content out into the world. Honestly, unless you're running targeted ads for a super cheap product, say a toothbrush or a water bottle under 400 rupees, expecting someone to watch one single video and immediately hand over their money is a complete myth. Transactional thinking is going to absolutely kill your long-term growth. Let's test this in our own lives, all right? How much do you trust a massive brand like Nike? If I asked you to rate it out of 10, you'd probably give it a solid 7, 8, or maybe even a 9. But here's the kicker. Do you remember the exact billboard, the exact TV commercial, or the precise number of swoosh logos you had to see before you decided you trusted them enough to buy their shoes? Of course not. You just kept seeing them around until they became a trusted fixture in your mind. Trust isn't an overnight switch. It is a very slow accumulation. Google actually studied this exact phenomenon, and they came up with a metric for it. It's called the 4-7-11 rule. To convert a complete stranger into a customer with high, genuine trust, you need to reach them across 4 different platforms, you need 11 unique interactions or touchpoints, and, get this, they need to consume roughly 7 total hours of your content. 7 whole hours. That is a massive chunk of time, and it perfectly explains why just throwing up 1 or 2 videos simply isn't going to move the needle for high-level trust. Let's look at how this scales depending on your industry, because the numbers here are honestly staggering. If you're selling a basic consumer good under 400 rupees, you might only need 5 to 8 touch points for basic brand recall. Moving up to something like a smartphone, now you need 11 touches across 4 channels. But look at high consideration purchases, stuff like real estate or university degrees. That requires 12 to 27 touches and over 20 hours of content consumption. And in the B2B space, if you want to close a complex enterprise deal worth over 80 locks a year, you are looking at 60 to 100 plus individual touchpoints before that client ever signs on the dotted line. When you average it all out across industries, the magic number is roughly 28.9. Actually, let's just call it 29. A client reliably needs to experience nearly 30 touchpoints, that's 30 videos, 30 posts, 30 distinct interactions, before making a major commitment to you or your business. So, if you aren't prepared to show up 30 times for one single client, you really aren't playing the distribution game correctly. Okay, so since immediate ROI is completely off the table, what should we actually be looking at? Let's pivot to section 3, tracking metrics efficiency. Here is your absolute golden rule for distribution efficiency, the 10% engagement rule. Let's say you have a video with 1 million views, but only 3 comments. Well, your distribution efficiency is terrible. You aren't actually building trust, you just got lucky with a viral algorithm. But if your total likes, shares, and comments make up roughly 10% of your total passive views, that means your distribution efficiency is incredibly healthy. It proves your audience is actively connected to the utility and entertainment you're providing. And, we've got to talk about the brutal reality of actually capturing that attention, specifically on short-form platforms like Instagram Reels. Look at this timeline. At just 1 second in, you face an immediate massive drop-off from people just mindlessly scrolling. If you can manage to hold attention for 9 to 10 seconds, you're doing well enough to reach your existing audience. If you can push that retention to 20 or 25 seconds, the algorithm starts loving you and really pushes you out. And if you could hold someone for 50 seconds or more, that is when you fly to millions of views. It is literally a game of seconds, balancing the quick scrollers with your deeply invested fans. So if the math is this clear, and the benefits of building a luck catcher are this massive, why isn't every traditional marketing manager out there doing this? That brings us to our final part, section 4, the long game. Patience pays off. It really all comes down to timeline incentives. The average chief marketing officer or marketing manager only stays at a company for about 2 to 3 years. But as we just learned, erecting a massive luck catcher and waiting for those 30-plus touchpoints to accumulate across millions of people, that takes years of patient, unmeasurable trust building. A marketing manager doesn't want to risk their short-term job security on a long-term random luck strategy. They want quick, measurable ads so they can prove they did something this quarter. And this, right here, is exactly why founders are the ones completely taking over the content space. Look at companies like Zerodha in India. They've amassed tens of millions of views across their platforms without relying on traditional performance marketing. The founders realized that to build a lasting legacy, they couldn't just rely on short-term managers. They had to be the face of the brand. They had to be the ones patiently showing up day after day, building that trust, and catching luck over the long haul. But please, do not think this only applies to tech founders or internet influencers. It absolutely applies to everyday professionals too. Consider the story from our source material about a doctor who amassed 200,000 followers. Because of his massive distribution network, he literally has 300 patients a day coming to his clinic, so many that he actually has to hire other doctors just to handle the overflow. He is fundamentally making 10 times more money than the doctor next door, simply because his luck stat is exponentially higher. Distribution works for doctors, plumbers, job seekers, and major enterprises alike. We have covered a lot of ground today, from the 4-7-11 rule of trust to the wild reality that success is really just a highly engineered form of luck. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to really chew on. How many touchpoints are you actively creating for your future? Stop thinking transactionally about what you can get today. Start building your lightning catcher right now so that in 3 years, when the lightning finally strikes, you are exactly where you need to be.